Say 14 to 15 billion years ago, we have some evidence that things got hurtled outwards. I like hurtled. Hurtled is a good word. Things were hurtled outwards by an explosion. And there's still, that light that we're seeing from it is our evidence of such from our redshift from Edwin Hubble. Fast forward 9 billion years. We get to skip all of those 9 billion years in between. Why? Because we don't have any evidence of what happened then. We've got nothing. So congratulations. 9 billion done. It took that long for enough mass that was hot and molten to accumulate. When it did so, you had the foundations of a rudimentary Earth. Looking at that rudimentary Earth, it would have been very volcano-like. Like the insides of a volcano. Melty, very, very hot, full of radioactive material. All in all, unpleasant. But nobody was there to know it was unpleasant because nothing could have possibly survived that. We believe that, or we infer that that's what early Earth was like, because we recognize that that's what the center of the Earth is like now. That's some of our evidence. So 4.6 billion years ago, you had this molten ball. And it started to cool on the surface, but it took, don't think 4.6 billion years, you have a molten ball, and 1,000 years later, it was cool. We're talking another billion passes before it starts to cool off. When it does cool off, it forms a crust on the outside. And that crust is going to get progressively thicker. The inside then is still going to be molten because it's going to be insulated by that hardened crust on the outside, and because the center of it is still radioactive. Radioactive decay emits what?
Radioactivity.
Heat.
Radiation, right? So we've got some energy there.
Yeah.
That's going to keep it molten in the center, all that decay. So we have a crusted over Earth and a molten ball in the center. And then Earth starts to cool, slowly, gradually. There's no free oxygen. The atmosphere surrounding this early primitive Earth would have been methane gas, hydrogen sulfide, ammonia. All in all, some pretty nasty stuff. The same stuff that we recognize any place that we study volcanoes. All the volcanic gases. Now this we can thank Hutton and Lyell for, because it was them who said, Earth must have formed from all of these forces that we can explain today. All the things that are visible to us, like volcanoes. Those help us understand what got us where we are. And so we can say, well, if that's true and volcanoes are our evidence of that, then early Earth's atmosphere must resemble that of what would be around a volcano. It was also full of water vapor, but not water. It was too hot still. It had to cool enough that water was able to condense. And once water was able to condense, it started raining. And I don't mean like a gentle spring rain. I mean like torrential thunderstorm downpours for thousands and thousands of years. That was the point that the world became what scientists refer to as a water world. Everything was covered in water. I just said Earth was covered in water, and you in your head just pictured a ball covered with a blue ocean. It's very pleasant looking, until you realize that the early ocean was not blue. It was probably closer to a funky green-red, almost blended to the point it's brown. Scientists called it a primordial soup, P-R-I-M-O-R-D-I-A-L. Called it a primordial soup. Some scientists, instead of saying primordial soup, called it a tarry ooze. I prefer primordial soup because it sounds less gross than tarry ooze. Some because they want to temper the idea. Ooze makes it sound thick, right? Ooze also makes me think of like pus, so these two things are associated. You know why? You want to hear my pus story? It's just disgusting. Ready for it? I'm interpreting that no as a yes, and I'm going to tell you anyway. So my sister's a dentist, and in the summers, I'm her dental assistant when she needs someone to fill in. It's a good time. And this guy came in, and his jaw was all swollen from infection. And when you go in with an infection like that, dentists and doctors, they want to relieve the pressure and empty out the infected tissue because the source of infection is in there, so they've got to find a way to empty it and then get antibiotics into you so, you know, you're not infected anymore. So I'm sitting there assisting. I'm the one with like the little suction thing, right? Like that's me, little suction thing and little water wand, resisting the urge to shoot my sister with it because when you're siblings and you assist them in situations like that, you do shoot them with it. So she went and got sterile equipment and just lanced open his infected jaw. And all of the most disgusting smelling green pus just started oozing out of his jaw.
Wait, like in his mouth?
So I had to suction it out. Yeah, she peeled open like right here. She held it down, then lanced right in there.
Was it big? Like
His whole jaw was swollen. So what she did was lanced just this small cut like the size of a scalpel and then palpated, which means touched with pressure. So she touched with pressure where it was swollen and moved all the pus out so it just continued to ooze out the hole. So whenever I say tarry ooze, then I think of pus and then I think of that, which is why I prefer to call it a primordial soup because it doesn't make me think of this guy's jaw like oozing grossness, right?
Was the guy screaming?
No, he was sedated.
So was he like?
He was conscious, but he'd been numbed with
Did he
anesthetic.
When he tasted it,
Oh, it would taste bad.
did he scream?
No.
wait, how did he like I thought it was on his lips. Did he taste it?
Well, she had to peel back his lip and cut. She cut it in here.
Oh, he got it in his mouth.
So then it was my job to suction it all out.
Would he die if he swallowed it?
PRIMORDIAL. So now that you all want to be dentists,
Why would it be a dentist that did that?
because it was in his mouth.
I thought dentists did teeth.
Anything in your mouth. Oral and maxillofacial.
So like your tongue too.
You ever been to the dentist, had your dentist wrap your tongue with a piece of gauze and pull it out?
No.
They should
That's
every time.
gross.
They've never done that time. Wait, what do they do?
It's so gross.
They
I get it.
wrap your tongue in gauze and pull it out and inspect your tongue. They're looking for cancer.
Yeah. I've never done that. I've never done that.
They just started that.
My little sister.
They should do that. I will say in all likelihood for you guys, they probably don't do it for littler kids because that kind of cancer is typically caused by smoking and chewing tobacco. And I'm assuming that your dentist can freely assume that you aren't the kinds of kids at like 7 and 8 years old who were chewing a lot of tobacco. I don't even want to know.
I don't know either.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I don't even know what you're saying. Man.
What's the point? Never mind. I'm just gonna stop talking.
Who is that, Alex?
Thank you, finally. Is
Andy
it Christmas?
What?
The rapper.
Who is that?
Yeah,
He
who
can't
is
be
that?
quiet, you know.
I honestly don't know who he's
He
talking
goes
about.
to our school and you know who he is.
What?
The kid who dropped the mixtape.
What?
Here's where I pause for station identification and remind you children chewing tobacco causes cancer. It's also disgusting. You will never get a date. Okay, that part was opinion. The first part was science. Throwing it out there. Glad your dentist is doing it. That's good. They should also like check here and here.
Yeah, mine does that.
My mom does that.
Yeah, my doctor does it too. They just feel me like.
Yeah, they should check. Your dentist should do your entire oral and maxillofacial region.
Isn't that for like lymph nodes or something?
What do you check for?
What your dentist is checking for is any swelling in any of your glands or nodes, because swelling is a sign of infection. Certain kinds of swelling, they would also be looking for any tumors. When they do that, they're looking for some pretty serious stuff. Like, it's not just because, like,
That's so scary.
they think it's fun.
Yeah.
It looks
My
really
dentist,
large.
one time, I was getting
Yeah,
a
my sister went to the dentist because her jaw was hurting really bad, and then they said it. She got like she like dislocated it like a little bit, not like bad, and then so it was like bruising like down her neck and like, all that. And she's like, well, how did I do it? Like, this is my little sister, and she's like, well, how did I do it? And, like they're like, well, what did you eat like today? And then so she told them, they're like, yeah, it's you ate a granola bar, you just put your mouth on a granola bar.
My jaw pops out of joint if I eat bagels. You'll never see me eat a bagel. Yeah, 'cause my jaw pops out, clicks. It's very painful.
What if you like?
So I also don't chew gum for that express reason.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you get
Doesn't-
it? No,
Nope.
it's just that's so weird.
Nope, so I get to sleep with an ever so glamorous bite guard in.
When you get your wisdom teeth out, aren't you not allowed to eat before that? Because then, like,
After
when,
it, not
no, before it, because, like, isn't there saliva in your mouth? And then can't you
There's
choke
always
on
saliva
it?
in your mouth.
No.
They dry it
Listen,
out.
You have to eat before.
no, listen to this, listen
They
to
dry
this.
it out, right?
Yeah, she's right. Yeah, you're right.
Wait, AJ, eat before.
So then why
No,
don't
when
you
you get your
eat?
wisdom teeth
No,
out.
you don't.
Because
Yeah,
I
you
was
don't
chewing
eat
gum.
because like the anesthesia, like.
Yeah, I was chewing
Like
gum.
that's the same thing with
And then
the
my,
procedures.
the guy was looking down, he's like, why are you chewing gum? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you're getting your teeth out. I'm like, yes, and? He's like, you could choke and die. And I'm like, didn't
Did you-
believe in that.
did you
Wait, you
Yeah.
already got yours
Yeah.
out?
AJ,
Yeah.
AJ.
You got your wisdom teeth out?
Yeah,
AJ.
Did it hurt?
yeah. After, I mean, like, my cheeks were like this big.
Wait, when did you get them out?
Like, summer.
We all go to the dentist.
AJ.
That's the fun part of dentist stories. We all have them. None really tops
So
the
bad.
I
The
think they smell good.
giant green
I love
ball
it.
of
It's like
pussy
floral.
infection.
I hate
I thought you were gonna say it was like white.
You
It
thought
was
what?
green.
I thought it was clear.
I thought
Pus?
I thought pus
Yeah.
was white.
It depends on the level of infection. The color changes with the degree of infection.
Clear, like. What about, like,
Clear is less infected, white is more infected, yellow is more infected, and green is like, wow, that's a pretty bad infection, you should probably get that looked at.
Good thing I never had it.
And that, my friend, is why I think, because you know the early ocean, right? Early ocean was not like thin, it was thick, and it wasn't blue, it was like that green-red combination because of all the dissolved minerals. So that green pus really is a fairly accurate depiction of what that primordial soup would have looked like. How many of you want to go to that world now? Green pus world?
The land before time.
So when we think about that, some scientists actually call it a primordial stew instead of soup, because stew gives you an idea that it's a little bit thicker. So does pus, so, you know, whatever. You choose your memory. It was in that environment that scientists finally believe there was potential for the necessary prerequisites for life. Not life, but potential for life. And what I find